Yang Amat Mulia Tengku Zatashah, Datin Mina, Cheah, Managing Director of In Nature Berhad, Puan Ruzi, Ajith, CEO of CGS-CIMB Securities. A very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at the 6th CGS-CIMB Top Leadership webinar titled Royal Hands in Advocating and Influencing a Better Malaysia Towards Sustainable Efforts. As usual, some housekeeping rules before we start is that if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box and we will answer them as we go along. As for those in Facebook, feel free to also drop the questions there and we'll pass it over to our moderator as well. Okay, so let me now pass the stage over to Ruzi for an opening remark, then followed by the royal chat, which we have all been looking forward to. And over to you, Ruzi.
Thank you, Chimeng. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to CGS-CIMB Thoughts Leadership Series. Thought is a social impact platform for prominent individuals to share their wealth of experience to inspire young up-and-coming talent within the industry. I believe you might have heard this slogan before, and I think it is relevant to share here today. You never really own the world. You simply look after it for the next generation. So as we speak, global issues of climate change, mass pollution, and overconsumption of resources continue to rampant, and regrettably, it is our progeny who will bear the weight of our silent voice. At CGS-CIMB, we believe in ethical and sustainable practices to ensure that the future generation will be protected and are able to live prosperously. To share more light on this conversation, we are very honored to have with us today Yang Amat Mulia Tengku Zatashah, our royal advocate in championing sustainability in Malaysia. Along with her is YBhg Datin Mina, the Managing Director of In Nature, one of Malaysia's market pioneer and leader in eco-friendly product and a role model for being a truly sustainable business enthusiast. Without taking more time, I'll pass the floor now to Tengku Zatashah and Datin Mina. And over to you, Datin Mina.
Thank you very much, Ruzi.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. We're really happy to be here, and it's a great opportunity for everybody viewing on Zoom and on Facebook to actually ask questions of Tengku Zatashah. She, from first-hand experience, I can vouch that she is one of the most down-to-earth royals you will ever have, or I have ever had the opportunity to meet. So please do ask your questions of her, especially if that's relevant to the topic of what we're going on about, sustainability, a future for young people, and why is she such the correct person to be talking about this, is that she actually has such a broad range of interests that run from the whole gamut from social poverty alleviation to environmental protection and anti-pollution and so on. So just to give you a brief rundown of what she's officially working on, these are just official ones, the unofficial ones, you know, it'll take the whole hour to just announce all of it. But anyway, she is the royal patron for Make-A-Wish Malaysia, and that is a charitable organization that grants wishes to Malaysian children with critical illnesses. She's also the president of Alliance Francaise Kuala Lumpur, which is a not-for-profit association that promotes French language and French culture in Malaysia. Tengku Zatashah is fluent in French and Spanish, and of course Malay and English, and so she speaks all of these languages, and is president of Alliance Francaise, and she's also the founder advocate. This is in 2016, mind you, of Say No to Plastic, when plastic was still not that much of an issue. So, or rather, not that much of a conscious issue among Malaysians. She was already talking about saying no to plastic. And also in 2016, she launched her campaign of zero food wastage by getting hotels and supermarkets to channel their surplus food to Kechara Soup Kitchen. Normally, these surplus food will either be thrown away, so not only does it get wasted, it also adds to the landfill problem in Malaysia. She's also on the board of trustees of the Selangor Youth Community, and she supports cloth care, fabric recycling, which when you take all your old clothes and all that, instead of just dumping it into your trash bin, you actually take it to this recycling center, and then it can be recycled into something useful. She's also on the board of trustees on the Raja Muda Selangor Foundation that looks towards helping underprivileged children with scholarships and training in the arts, and chairperson to the Food Bank Malaysia Foundation. So all of this and more. And I will start the ball rolling by asking the first question. You know, so many issues that actually run the whole gamut from social society issues to environmental issues. So do you have one that you feel that you need to focus more on, and why?
Thank you so much to both of you for an amazing introduction. Thank you, Datin, Mina. I think you really summed that up really, really well with all the things that I do. I would say in the current situation that we're facing with the lockdown, with the pandemic, is the social issue. So definitely trying to get as much food aid to the B40, to those in need. And I was actually, you know, before we had the full total lockdown, we were under an MCO. But this year we still managed to do zero food wastage, because every year I've been doing zero food wastage. We save surplus food. In 2019, we saved 11 tons of surplus food just from the month of Ramadan alone. So this year, I was thankful that we were able to have zero food wastage because the hotels were open and they had their Ramadan buffets. So we were able to save surplus food, and in turn, we were able to give all that food to the elderly folks' homes, to those in need, different care homes, to the PPR families, you know. So we're still, even though I'm not out and about, and I'm still able to, every now and then, back then was able to go to the soup kitchen, feed the homeless. I've done a few Saturday night food distributions to feed the homeless. And also through the work with the Yayasan Food Bank, we have been able to go nationwide and thanks to our sponsors and our donors, really. We have amazing sponsors and donors to give us the food so that we're able to go out and deliver it to those in need. So when Sabah was going through last year through a very terrible time, we were able to give food and send it to Sabah, you know, to the different islands and Sampurna, etc. So we're still doing that now. Even though we're in total lockdown, we're still able to give the food. We're sending it to the frontliners, you know, the different PPV centers, the vaccination centers, to the frontliners, even to the police who are doing the roadblocks. You know, they're always really grateful to get something. So I think it's that has probably been my biggest focus in the last 2 years is definitely to get as much aid as we can to those in need and support the local business as well.
Yeah. And do you think that
environment is never far away?
I was going to ask, you know, the shift to, I mean, obviously the need is very great now. People are hungry and, you know, and they need food. So, but do you think this, the focus on sustainability issues is still just as important? I mean, how do you then decide, okay, I've got a finite budget. How do you then decide on the split between poverty and social and environmental issues?
Definitely, I think environmental issue is still a huge key, and even more so now. You know, if you look at the documentaries on Netflix, Sir David Attenborough, Dr. Jane Goodall, these amazing, and even Dr. Sylvia Earle, who, you know, I've had the opportunity to meet or have contact with them. They're all saying the same thing, that, you know, we are really at that critical point to do something for the environment, because once we're beyond that, there is not really much turning back. So it's not the point like, oh, we can think about it, we still have another 10 more years. We really need to start now. That's what Greta Thunberg's saying, you know, we need to start now. So even though, Datin, Mina, you and I have been talking about environmental and sustainability for many years now, especially with your work with the Body Shop, etc. With your experience, in fact, we even did a plastic talk together a few years back. But, you know, the thing is, it's even more important now because people are not really focusing on it. And we need to know how to be more sustainable, how to consume more wisely, more smartly. Plastic is part of our life, you know. So when I came up with the hashtag Say No to Plastic, it was just something very simple. But actually, it's a lot more complicated than that, you know. It's about stopping single-use plastic. It's about trying to reduce waste. It's about being mindful in how we consume, you know. So it's about planning. I always think, you know, you can still plan when you go to the shops, to the supermarket. You can still plan in how you shop wisely, smartly. Don't overbuy lots of food, and then you'll end up in the fridge, and then it's like, you know, it's food wastage. And likewise, there's a lot of zero waste stores that you can go and, you know, fill up your containers. It's all about recycling, reusing, and reducing. So I think that that message is still very apt. Residential waste has increased because of lockdown. You know, maybe commercial waste has decreased because not many people are at the offices, but residential waste has increased. So we haven't reduced that impact. And, you know, I've met with Boyan Slat. He runs the ocean cleanup, and we have the second interceptor, which his second interceptor is in Klang River in Selangor. When I met with him at Change Now Summit in Paris, and I asked him, I said, you know, you have one in Jakarta, you have one in Selangor. I said, you know, which one is the more polluted? Well, you wouldn't like the answer to that. We are very much so. And now this is why Coldplay has sponsored for the fourth, which is actually going to be, it's called the Neon Moon or something like that. It's a new type of prototype from the ocean cleanup. And they're going to put that in the Klang River. So that's two. Because his mission is there are 1,000 polluted rivers. And if we clean up those 1,000 very highly polluted rivers, we can stop that waste going into the ocean. So the fact that we are highlighted, I mean, I'm glad that we have people and you know, from inside in our country that are working alongside with them. So, you know, it's this kind of team effort is what we need. And I'm grateful that, you know, they've got their eyes on us and helping, and that, you know, Malaysia is also very willing to have the help that we need from others. So yeah, I think environment still definitely important.
Okay. You know, this project in the Klang River is an excellent one. You can actually see it happening, and if it's really proof of concept. If it does well here, I hope more Malaysian companies will take that up and take ownership of the river closest to you. You know, I mean, that's such a brilliant idea. Okay, you know, with this, it's still important. We are, as you were saying, we are at the cusp, at a turning point. So what can we do more to drive the sustainability agenda in this new normal? You know, you've got to expenses. People are always saying sustainability is too expensive for us. We'll put that off, maybe do it next year when we don't have to deal with COVID. But we're at this inflection point. So what can we do? What do you say about sustainability being expensive? And what do you think we can do?
I mean, a lot of people think sustainability is expensive, but I mean, I think from your experience as well, that it's not. In the long run, it's not meant to be costly, you know. Being sustainable, yes, certain materials is more expensive. An eco option is more expensive than the plastic option. That's for sure. So a lot of businesses are at that point to decide between business survival because of COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown, and the economy is hurting very badly because of it, or, you know, thinking of the environment. But I think also consumers can play a huge part in that. You know, how we buy, where we buy, and who we support should drive down those prices. And, you know, even discussion that I've had in the previous, you know, with the previous Ministry of Environment, I said, you know, if we had tax incentives for those businesses that just choose a sustainable option, that would be huge to be able to alleviate. And, you know, between your 400% on your added margin, which you can't put that on your consumer naturally, you know, you've got to absorb that price and that cost. But if we're able to say, hey, more of us want to choose sustainable options and have more recycling efforts, proper recycling facilities, You know, when I met with Tom Zaki, who is the owner and the founder of TerraCycle, he has this brilliant idea. And what he does is that he recycles everything, all products. He works with major brands, major cosmetic brands, and household brands. And now he's even doing recycling cigarette butts. And as you know from beach cleanups, how many cigarette butts do we collect? I have collected thousands of cigarette butts. You know, I don't smoke, okay? So I'm like, and I've collected thousands of cigarette butts, as I'm sure that Mina has as well. And it doesn't degrade. It takes hundreds of years for a tiny little filter to degrade. And he's come up with this whole system and machinery that is able to recycle diapers. How many diapers have you picked up, Datin, Mina? I have picked up many soiled diapers on the beach, okay? It's not fun, you know? And it's like, oh, so he has that whole thing. And I always said to Tom Zaki, I said, I would love to have TerraCycle here in Malaysia. You know, they're in France, they're in USA, they're in Japan. But to have something like that here would be amazing, that we're able to actually recycle all these consumer goods, you know, instead of just ending up in the landfill.
Yeah. You know, just now you mentioned you thanked your supporters and your donors. Have you found that that it's getting more difficult to actually get support for the issues and money for the organizations that you support? Is that becoming a challenge?
Definitely is a challenge. We're thankful with the Yayasan Food Bank. We actually get the food in kind. So we get a lot of the surplus food, drinks and etc. from the major brands, so that we're able to give out. But in terms of other charities that really need the money, the fundraising, it's very hard. I mean, even like for Make-A-Wish Malaysia, we continue to grant the wishes despite being on lockdown, because, you know, our kids, they are suffering critical illness. So time's not on their side, you know, they need something to give them the hope and the strength and the joy, much as we do, but they're even more, you know, and yet they're so brave and they're fighting their critical illness. So when we had at a point last year at the beginning, when we had the first lockdown, we had the hashtag, the whole world, all the Make-A-Wish around the world, we had wishes are waiting. But it got to a point where it's like, we can't wait anymore. This situation was not improving, and we needed to grant those wishes. So the teams, the volunteers have been amazing. They have come up with really creative ideas, to send the toys and the gifts and to make a special wish journey. We do everything on Zoom. For instance, DHL is one of our partners, and DHL's been doing all the deliveries, and, you know, they live in quite rural areas, but they've been doing all the deliveries for free to our wish kits. So DHL's been fantastic with that. And recently we had Yu Ching. She's 9 years old. She has acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and she wanted to do a performance, a concert. So normally we would have done that live, but we had to do it on Zoom. So I attended her performance, and she sang, she played the piano, she did ballet. She was just amazing. She did everything. I was like, wow, it's like a all-in-one performance. And her wish was very simple, and it's still available. So guys, please go check out Make-A-Wish Malaysia Facebook, because her YouTube performance is on there, and her wish is that she wanted 5,000 likes. We're on the way. We've got 2,000. I'm hoping to get more. We really need to make her wish come true.
Say her name again so that we can search for it on YouTube.
Yu Ching. So you just have to go to the Make-A-Wish Malaysia YouTube channel. Yes. And you'll see Yu Ching, so YUQING. She does a little performance. You got a like on her YouTube on that video. So okay. I've already liked it. So share it with all your friends. Make her wish come true.
Right after this, I'm doing this. Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, it's amazing the kind of things that you are doing. You know, it all takes time and effort. And I've seen you go out to the food bank, and why I say you're so down to earth is people won't know you're dressed like everybody else. You got a cap on your head, and you're working just as hard as everybody else. You're not selective. You are right up there, right in front of everybody. Now how do you influence others? How do you encourage them? Because everybody thinks, oh, you know, she's a princess, of course lah, she can do all these things, you know. But I know, personally, I know it takes a lot of effort from you personally. So what do you say about, what have you got to say up to all the people listening in? How can they start? How can they help themselves? If they are young people, you know, they really, you know, need to get up. But young people, I find, are always the ones who say, I don't have influence, I don't have money, I'm not head of the organization, not CEO, I'm just a small cog in maybe a loose wheel. So what advice would you give to them?
Absolutely. And they do say that to me. But some of the youths, they say, you know, but we're not a princess, so we can't create influence. I'm like, you don't need to be a princess to create any kind of influence. If you can just influence your friends, your family, your parents, even your grandparents at home, change the, you know, let's say, for instance, bringing reusables and not using single-use plastic, and you can influence your class, your school, your university, your community. It's like a dominoes effect. And you'll see that between a group of friends, like it's what I did in 2016 when I used to go to the food truck and I would bring my tiffin. And the guys at the food trucks would call me the girl with the tiffin. And I would tell everyone, all my friends, that we sit there, and I said, none of you are allowed to use any single-use containers. Bring your own containers. So they'd all, you know, the guys would come with their Tupperwares, and we would have our own water tumblers. The girls would come with the pretty tiffins, and we would go around, and basically everything on that table between my friends and I, zero food wastage and no plastic, no waste. We didn't throw anything away in the bin. It was like everything we took back home to wash. So I said, you know, I could just create that influence with my group of friends, and I would give them the eye, like, do not come with a plastic bottle, you know? And this is the kind of thing that you can do. You can influence all your friends and your family, you know? I used to remember this 10-year-old girl came on my beach cleanup, and she, and you know, the Selangor beach cleanup, Pantai Morib is far. It's about an hour and a half. You got to drive, and it's very early morning, so you have to wake up at 6 a.m. She told her mom, she goes, I want to go and do the Princess Beach cleanup. Mom was like, Princess Beach cleanup on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. We have to drive so far. Yeah. And she wanted to go and do it. And so she was the one who influenced her mom to change and go to zero waste stores. And same with this other boy, this very cute 11-year-old Malay boy who influenced his dad to come and do our beach cleanup. And he was writing on Instagram the whole scientific data about plastic pollution. I was like, you're 11. I don't think I remember doing anything as amazing as that when I was 11 years old, you know? So yeah, you can start as young, as long as you have a passion for whatever it is, whether it's the environment or whether it's a social cause. You know, we've been delivering food to the needy during the lockdown and since COVID and all that.
Yeah.
And actually, what was incredible is that a friend of mine saw my post, and his mom has been cooking like 160 sets of food to give out to the needy, to give to frontliners, to give to the Grab riders, like free food, guys. Oh. And so the Grab riders like, oh yeah, we get free food, you know. And he said to me today, he said, it was thanks to your post that I was influenced and inspired to do something. I was like, amazing. He's not part of an NGO. It's just, I love that. I love a story like that. Yes, someone just wrote on the chat about Kiwanis. Yes, thank you to Kiwanis supporting Yu Ching's concert.
Okay, a follow-up question. What do you say to the detractors, the ones who don't believe that climate change is an issue, the ones who will happily continue eating their shark's fin and tell you that sharks eat people, so we should eat sharks? So what do you say to people who are obviously not in it?
There are a lot still. You know, the conviction, it gets to a point, I'm sure you know it yourself, Datin Mina. We've been talking about sharks and saving our sharks and saving our turtles, you know, something so basic like let's stop turtle trade.
And then they tell you turtle eggs are so delicious.
Oh my God. And or they post all their plastic bag and the plastic drink. I'm like, you want Milo, got plastic bag, plastic straw, plastic cut, everything. I'm like, that's a lot of plastic, and you carry it in a plastic bag. You could just bring a reusable tumbler, please, and enjoy your iced Milo. But there's a lot who are either they're not really willing to change their habits. It's too much for them to change their habits, or they are, like you said, the ones that don't believe. And you just have to keep sharing and keep trying and keep lobbying. And I believe eventually, the message does get through. I am like a broken record, and they do nickname me Persistent Princess. Sometimes I think they nickname me Pushy Princess, but anyway, pushy or persistent. I think that's the more polite one, is calling me Persistent Princess. And as you have to keep sharing the information and keep sharing, about our sharks. They're critically endangered, and yet, there is no law banning from shark's fin. And those that I do try to lobby behind doors, I'm not going to be the one that's going to post it on my social media and name and shame you, because that's not how I would do things. But I will try to negotiate behind closed doors, and sometimes it works. Sometimes I've had changes, like when I talked about grab food deliveries and Food Panda to change their default setting to no plastic cutlery, and then they did that. And I was like, yay, that for me was a win, the fact when they did not throw in the plastic cutlery, and I've been lobbying for that forever.
Yeah.
So there's certain things we can change, and the rest is up to us. We are all ultimately responsible. How we consume, how we do business, how we do things. We can't just dig our head in the sand anymore. You find a lot of plastic if you do that.
Well, you got plastic bag on your head.
Yeah.
No, but you're very consistent. You're very consistent. I follow you on Instagram, and you're very targeted in your postings, and there's a thread and a theme to what you do, and I think that helps a lot, that people can see that it's not a one-shot thing. It's not flavor of the month. You're very consistent with all of this. So it's taken you from 2016 to now, and you're still posting about say no to plastics. You still see lots of people with plastic straws and so on. Now, how do you keep going? You say you're like a broken record. So how do you, and people switch off all of a sudden, they don't hear it. It goes in one ear, because it's the same thing over. How do you keep your messaging fresh? How do you get people to continually listen?
That's so true. I think for me, it would be, you've got to do it. You've got to show by action. It's not just all talk, because I think if you just talk about things, or you just, then there's no credibility behind. So you need to go out there and show, and then people realize. Like, you go to an event, to a conference, right, before when we had a CMCO. So it was a business conference talking about sustainability, sustainable development. All the business leaders are there, and I arrive with my tumbler of water, and then they all had this single-use plastic bottles. And I'm like, this is my point, people. We're talking about plastic, and yet there's plastic everywhere. So you've got to live, and you've got to be it. You've got to try your best and consistently show that. And even when I go to a mama stall, I'll bring my I've got my cutlery, I've got my my tumbler, and oh, do you want a bottle of water? No, I've already got water in my tumbler. I don't need to buy a plastic bottle just for that one lunch. So it's about, really, you've got to live it.
There's a question online from one of the attendees, I think, on Facebook, and the question is that online shopping uses a lot of plastic carrier bags due to cost. What solutions can these sellers come up with, as paper and boxes are too expensive?
I think a lot of online is sent by boxes. I know that Body Shop and Natura is very eco with that because you use all the shredded paper and there's no plastic inside your boxes and packaging. Actually, some of the things that I've spoken with, like, trying to speak with Lazada and Shopee is like what we need, and I've also spoken with Alam Flora, is we need like a center, like a one-stop center that all these boxes that we order online is able to put in there so that they can be reused, and so not just thrown into a bin and then that ends up in the landfill. So we need some sort of system like that we can actually say, okay, all my boxes and stuff, I can put it in here, Lazada can pick it up, or Shopee, or whatever, and it can be reused again because those boxes are still in good shape, right? So I think we need a little bit more of a systemic change. Infrastructure wise, it's not materials that's at fault, or the business that's at fault. At the end of the day, we right now essential shops are only open, so our choice is to shop online. And I believe in supporting the business. I still believe in that. I think livelihood is still very important.
Yeah, I want to just add a little bit of personal experience onto this. At the end of the day, it's consumers. It's what consumers are willing to pay. If you and that's where I think everybody needs to chip in. If you want to buy online, then either go and shop with the people who are responsible, who are prepared to be watchful and careful with the kind of packaging they're using. But if we all charge towards only buying the cheapest, that forces retailers, resellers to also look for the cheaper solution, which is not always the best solution for the environment. So it's a whole cycle of it's a whole circularity thing. What are you prepared to pay? What are you prepared to do? There's another question. How do you avoid single-use packaging when shopping at supermarkets? Almost everything has waste, and zero waste stores have very limited products.
That's very true. What I try to do is with single-use plastics, especially like containers, maybe if you buy your fruit or whatever, try to buy your fruit fresh rather than it's already cut up. But if you do have the single-use plastic containers, then reuse them. They can always be reused. I store some of the foods in it. I don't just simply throw. And Village Grocer, not that I'm a sponsor for Village Grocer or anything, but Village Grocer is great because I've been lobbying with supermarkets to reduce the plastic packaging on the fruits and veg. And Village Grocer is exactly that. So they heard my pleas, and they heard me lobbying, and they went for there's no plastic packaging on their fruits and veg. So a lot of it is you come with your mesh bags, which you can buy at the zero waste stores. They also sell it there. So you have your grocery mesh bag, you put all your fruits, your veg, go into the weighing counter, and that's it. It's done, and you put everything in your recycle bags and take it home. So that's a very satisfying part of shopping, because what I used to say was like, if you go in the UK or in France, you've got all those farmers markets, right? And all the produce is not wrapped in beautiful plastic. There's no plastic. So it's like, oh, look, I'm going to choose the orange. Oh, the apple looks nice. And the guy puts it in a brown bag and he passes it to you. It's great. I was like, yeah, this is how we should be shopping back to those days, So but with single-use plastic containers, try to reuse them. There are many ways. In fact, on my Instagram, you'll see a video that we did a collaboration with UNDP Malaysia and UNICEF Malaysia and the Plastic Manufacturer Association. It's about using plastic wisely and smartly. So take a look out on that on my Instagram.
So this, I want to talk a little bit about you as a royal and how you use that position that you were born into, and what do you have to say about the community? How do you think the royal community can play a role in influencing the right?
Actually, I don't really use it.
Yeah, you don't.
I
know you don't.
You
I know you don't. And I think we should more.
I really don't. I don't have a team of people. A lot of people have this assumption like I've got a team of staff and everyone's like
Okay, I
doing
can
things.
vouch for that. All the pictures that you post on Instagram, you do yourself. And all the
Yeah.
books that you review, you read yourself. So I know you
Yes.
have no team, it's just you. So it's amazing.
That's why. No, I don't. I mean, I've never been that way inclined. I do it because I have a passion and a love for it, and I feel like this is something that really moves me to do something, and I do it. So yeah, I seem to have a lot of things going on, but that's simply I really don't have that team. Datin Mina knows. No PA. There's no PA in my life.
And
I
that's
cook.
why,
I
this
also
is,
cook. you know, I
do
go to
you
the
think,
market.
you really are a rarity. You really are true rarity. And it's something that I really admire about you, and that's one of the main reasons. I see your consistency. You laugh at yourself and you say you're pushy and persistent, but I see that consistency. I see that real that the authenticity that you have, and your passion and your commitment to environmental causes that people sometimes don't understand. They, in this day and age of the internet and instantaneous gratification, people want everything like this, and they don't realize that sustainability is a long journey. It takes 20-30 years for a hardwood tree to actually grow, and then even then it's not a matured forest. So people
So
get
true.
tired and they lose it. But I see in you consistency and so on. That's why we invited you to join the In Nature board, because you are authentic, you're real, you're hardworking. And I guess, as a person, that's what inspires me most about you. Actually, I take inspiration from you because I used to go and buy uh, tea and coffee and all that. And then I saw you using a stojo. So I actually said, you better not. I'm not going to go coffee. Now I have a stojo in my office and one in my car, so that if I ever feel, I can always just pick it and then go and buy it. And otherwise, I just don't. The coffee
Yes,
people don't
exactly.
make
Otherwise,
don't make
just
money.
don't. That's so true. No, but thank you, Datin Mina. It's at the end of the day, it's like it should also be an example. Like you don't need to have like a whole bunch of people to do lots of different things that you're bidding or whatever. I'm very much about multitasking. So multitask and do what you believe in. And that's why when a lot of people, I see this question from Ina on the chat, what are your thoughts when people say, how can my small act make a difference? Every small step, every small effort, no matter how big, no matter how small, makes a huge difference. Because only together, if we do it, that we can make that change. Because if it's just if we were just doing it ourselves, when we do a beach cleanup, it's not just one of us, right? It's a group of us that get together to do a beach cleanup. And that's a huge effort, because how many kg do we collect? How many did Body Shop collect last year?
I think
We collected about 800 kg just from my
yeah.
group.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
collected in total. I think it was like 2,000 or 3,000 kgs. And
Yeah.
there's only small section
Amazing.
of beach. There's not
Yeah.
big, huge beaches, because obviously we're locked down. So we
Yep.
organize small group cleanups. And so when after they clean out, they weighed it and then they sent it to us and we collected it together. And I'm always, it just takes someone to organize something,
Yeah.
and people turn up. Every time we organize, in the old days when we could ramai, every time we organize a cleanup, you get like hundreds of people just
Did you
turning
know?
up.
Did you know before COVID, 2019, we were the top country in terms of one of the top 10 countries in terms of participation for the International Coastal Cleanup. That's us, okay?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
may be polluters, but we also clean up. So I was like, wow, we're in the top 10. I'm like, this is amazing in terms of the number of trash kg collected and in terms of the number of participants. In 2019, we had nearly 15,000 participants across Malaysia for the international coastal cleanup,
Yeah,
which is huge.
yeah.
And working with people like yourself and other NGOs like YBhg Malaysia. I mean, you know, this is why when I don't do it myself, I work with the credible, legit NGOs like Kachara Soup Kitchen or Make-A-Wish or, you know, YBhg Malaysia, Trash Hero. I work with Trash Hero as well. And with all these guys is you don't have to start from zero.
Yes.
You know, so if you want to do just that one little bit, just, you know, it's
Join
even with
up.
my cat.
Yes.
Datin Mina is with my cat, you know,
Yeah.
saving our tigers. And that was something that I've been petitioning since 2016, you know, with my No More Dead Tigers. And look at where we are now. We made huge progress. You know, getting that to Parliament thanks to the Body Shop and your, you know, all your actions. So yeah, it's every effort counts.
As Facebook, someone on Facebook would like you to share your experience on one major setback that you faced in your life.
One major setback. I would say major setback is when there was time when I was trying to get the surplus food for zero food wastage. And quite a few of the main hotels, international hotels, said no because they had the sort of policy, you know, HQ policy about health and safety. They wouldn't give the thing. And
Afraid
we
of
had
getting
one major.
sued.
Yeah. So, but I was persistent. And even with one major supermarket, and 2 years later, I got them to change their minds. And I had the approval from Japan, because Japan's very strict with the health and safety. And Japan HQ said, okay. So ION Malaysia was the first to do zero food wastage. First ION in the world. I mean, even they weren't doing it in Japan, to save surplus food from the supermarket so we could feed the needy. So I think when I have a setback, I never give up. I'll never give up. We'll keep on going. So even when it comes to shark fin or turtles and plastic, especially plastic, because you just see so much of it, you know, people's posting when they have their boba tea or whatever, it's all plastic. And it's very easy to give up. Sometimes I'm sure it's like, you know, oh, is the message really going through? And then there's this moments of doubt, like, you know, am I just, but I think in the end, there is always change. I think we've changed since 2016, 2015. I think there's been a lot of change, and a lot of people have gotten on board, and a lot of people buying the stojo, like Datin Mina said. You know. Tupperware's tiffins became a viral trend.
Yeah,
I was amazed to see that.
Your
but not just
photograph.
me. It was
Your
not just
photograph
me.
is iconic. No, the one with you and the Raja Muda of Selangor. That really is iconic, and you know, and that gets people thinking, because it doesn't look stingy. It doesn't look as though you are kedekut, you know, you're coming in, but you know, it really gives a big, you know, a big push, I think, for people to think, and it starts it. I don't know. I don't know what you think about it. I don't care. If people are doing it for the wrong reasons, if they're doing it as a fashion statement, wearing recycled cloth and so on, I don't care. You know, wearing vintage because it's so in this season. If they are doing it, some people say you must be all in or you're out.
No, I'm not such a purist like that. You know, if every effort counts. And I think, you know, when the whole tiffin at the Bazaar Ramadan was becoming a trend before COVID, and I saw all the friends, they were all like me, you know, wearing the kabaya, the batik, or carrying the tiffin. I was like, oh, this just warms my heart. I love it, you know. And even the men were like tagging me, look at my tiffin. I mean, it's not just for girls, okay? Men can also go with their tiffin. And then the guys were tagging me, and I love that. I appreciate seeing, I may not say it so much, but I do appreciate seeing everyone's efforts, and when they tag me to say, hey, we're doing it too. So yeah, that's really one of the coolest things, I think, over the years. But in terms of setback, I'm a type to always say there is a solution, just about a matter of finding it.
There's a question from Nofazun, and she's asking, in your opinion, where do you think Malaysia stands when it comes to caring for the environment, and how to optimize the awareness in Malaysia?
I think we are much better now. Over the years, 2016, we were not thinking about plastic pollution at all. Environment's always been there because we're surrounded by so much beauty, so much nature, flora and fauna. But I think we can do, I think it's so much more vastly improved. Our awareness, our consciousness. A lot more people are so eco-conscious, and I think it's great. I think we're definitely on the good path. So there's definitely hope, I think, in changing consumer habits, and I see a lot more of that out there. So yeah, I'm very hopeful. It's not all doom and gloom.
All right, there's a question about whether you use your influence in dealing with the authority, especially federal or state government, in ensuring the agenda has been taken seriously, the environmental agenda.
I do that. I mean, it's for that reason, I was invited to the Malaysia roadmap, the launch of the Malaysia roadmap to zero use plastic. At the time, I was working, it's important for everyone to work together. So whether it's working with the states, I work with the different daerah, to be able to organize the beach cleanups, working with different ministries, different departments. I think, everyone is making efforts. Maybe it's just not always out there in the wide web. It's not out there on main news. When I met virtually with Alam Flora, I was impressed by all the things that they were doing. In fact, so we always have this assumption, myth, like, oh, they just pick up the rubbish, but they do a lot more. There's e-waste collection. There's the One Pit Stop recycling center that they have in Putrajaya. So there's a lot of activities out there. And I think you can check it all out on Instagram, on people's different Instagrams, what everyone is doing. So I think we're definitely more active, and the youth are definitely more participative. And, most of the times when I do when I organize the Selangor Beach cleanup, they're mainly youths, university students, kids, primary school. I'm like, wow, these are my junior eco warriors, and they're really setting the bar. And I would love to see that, the fact that, I don't know, how do they find me on Instagram and know that this is happening? It's great. So yeah, I think we're definitely, getting there.
Okay. You're always such a positive person, but what makes you almost want to throw up your hands and say, forget it?
I think, wow, one thing? I have to choose one? Datin, Mina, you already putting the pressure on.
Okay. Three.
Three things. I would say, okay. Well, I think definitely plastic use. But also I think it's a lot of assumptions. People need to we all have to put ourselves in other people's shoes. So for instance, like when we do a lot of the food distribution to the poor and the needy, and someone said, oh, but look, you've got plastic bags. And I'm like, but the priority is getting the food to the needy. I understand about plastic bags, but they don't have that option. And actually, when you look at those B40 families, they are reusing the same pink plastic bag again and again and again. It's not single use, So it's about putting yourself in the shoes of what is the priority and what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is save that surplus food instead of being thrown, and it's very good food, it's edible, to be able to pass that on to the needy. Now, when we do a lot of before we had all the food distribution from all the surplus food from supermarkets, they come with their massive, reusable bags, and they put all their fruits in there. So they're very much eco-friendly because they have to reuse what minimal resources that they have.
Yeah.
So it's those that are, not thinking about it. That's why I always say we have to be more mindful. So that's the thing that kind of drives me a little bit like, up the wall is if we're not showing how mindful we are. We have to be mindful. Put yourselves in other people's shoes, put yourselves in, and choose wisely, mindfully, live in a sustainable way. We're not perfect. I never use the word zero waste. I use zero food wastage, but I never use the word zero waste, because for me, it's like, if I had zero waste, that would be amazing. But let's have reality here. The fact is, what I always say is reduce waste, mindfully reduce, so we don't have to create so much unnecessary waste. That's the thing.
Excellent point. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Facebook questions. Right. Hi, Tengku Zatashah. What do you think of the current situation where the underprivileged youth are having difficulties in getting access to online learning due to the lack of network in their areas, not having access to equipment, gadgets? What are the ways on how people with influence can help the young who are missing out on their learning experience?
Fantastic question, and thank you for bringing that up, because I have so much to say. Actually, working with, as I'm on the board of the Yayasan Raja Muda Selangor, what we're doing is we're collecting a lot of the devices, people's old devices, and what we do is we clean it up. There's a company that does it professionally, cleans it up and makes it ready for schools. And we hand that out to the different local schools for kids that need devices. And we're doing the same thing as well on the Alice Smith School Foundation. We partner with our neighbor school, which is in Sri Kembangan. So what we do is we gave quite a lot of PCs and devices. It was cleaned up, it was all ready to go, to make sure that they are able to work on it. And we gave that to the school for the kids, to the students that are in need, especially at the SPM kind of level, because that's the ones that really need to work on assignments and things. So yes, I totally understand. And I always say that's the one thing that I always say to people, we have to put ourselves in the shoes, because they don't have Wi-Fi. A lot of these PPR families, they don't have Wi-Fi. It's all reliant on mobile data. You've got like 4 kids, and so you've got maybe 2 phones, the father and the mother, to pass out the devices, and they're all using their little phone to work and do their homework. And it's not just in B40, we're talking like M40 would have the same issue. How many devices to hand out? Not everybody gets a tablet, not everybody gets a device. So if you guys have or know people who have old devices, PCs or whatever, you can check it out. There's a lot of NGOs that are doing that, but definitely through mine, through Alice Smith School Foundation, and through Yayasan Raja Muda Selangor, actively collecting and making sure that these devices go out. In terms of internet and Wi-Fi, I mean, hopefully, our telcos can help there, and but yeah, it's not easy. It's really difficult, and I always say to people, we have to be so mindful of. Put yourself in their shoes, because I've visited the families, I've visited the units, I know the conditions that they live in, and to have a phone with limited data it's not easy, and to keep up with schooling. I've missed working with my kids in the primary school. I used to work with them a lot, and I set like programs, but now they're all at home, so I miss touching base with the kids in the PPR flats. I used to give out all the books and donations. I gave English books. I gave
your
BM
mobile
books.
library, your library.
Yeah, the picture illustrated books. But now I have a stack of books waiting to give to them, but I haven't seen them since before COVID. So it's really, really tough times, but yeah, we can all be mindful about that. But there are a lot of activities, collecting devices so that we can, I'm hoping maybe telco can give some free data. I think there are some, right? There are some sort of free programs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, there's another question on your own educational background, and whether that has shaped your way of thinking and your perspective in life.
Wow, I like that question. Thank you. Yes, it definitely has. Charity, I've been doing charity since I was 10 years old. When I was sent to the UK to boarding school at age 10, very young, but I loved it. And what I used to do when we were there, we were volunteers for quite a number of charities. So I was a volunteer for Cheah Homes for the elderly folks homes, and I was a volunteer for the British Red Cross. Every week we'd have to go to the old folks' homes and make them hot chocolate and talk to them, play board games, put them to bed. I was 10 years old, It's like, this is someone else's granny, and granddad. But that's the kind of thing that we used to do. And so charity's been ingrained from back then. And my mom used to go and take me to kampong. We used to give a lot of the food, before Raya, Ramadan. And then when I was 17, me and my best friend from Nigeria, we were at boarding school, and we decided to do a fashion show, charity fashion show. And I created all the choreography. It was dance choreography, because they weren't just going to walk. I'm going to make them dance. And I danced too, okay? So I did dance choreography, and we got the clothes from Benetton, we got the sponsors, we got everything. We sold the tickets, and we raised £300. Just me and my friend and my classmates that I dragged them to do it. We raised £300 for the British Red Cross and the Cleft Palate Association. Oh, wow. And because of that, my school said, okay, they made me the school prefect. But hey, I started very young, I made them all dance. I was like, dance has always been part of my thing. But so you can be creative.
It's great, it's the, I think it's the early introduction to the power of the knowledge that you can make a difference, that you can go, your 10-year-old self goes and you cheer up someone else's granny just by being yourself. I mean, at 10 years old, well, you were told to go and you go. I think that is really helpful. This sense of being able to do things and being able to make a difference, is excellent. If only we can get that going in our own school system, yes, rather than just making sure everybody can get 12 A's, 15 A's in their SPM and all that, but to actually enlarge the curricula to include in social aspects, social development of the
volunteerism. Simple as that, just to have volunteerism as part of your curriculum once a week, and put yourselves in other people's shoes. I think that's what's so important, is when you can see from the other side. A lot of people make assumptions like why people are homeless, or because they're, drug addict or alcoholic and all this. No, that's not the case. People don't choose to sleep on the streets, It's about speaking to them, understanding their situation, helping them. Yeah. And the same for the B40s, single mom with 6 kids, and they have illnesses, but she has to deal with 6 kids and her mother who is wheelchair bound.
Yeah,
she can't even afford to go to hospital. So it's things like that. It's like, if you don't see and you don't volunteer, you don't talk to them, then it's all just statistics and reports. You need to be on the ground.
I want to pick up on that. This empathy that you have for other people, it's how did you develop that? Because you're born into a life of royalty, of really, you could live your life in complete luxury and never know all of these things. So how do you develop this empathy, this putting yourself into other people's situation? How did you develop that?
I think we can all develop that by having compassion, by feeling. You've got to feel it, and it's got to touch you in the heart. So if you see the situation, you understand, and you're saying, okay, how can I help? Like one lady, she has 6 kids, and the girl, she was 12 years old. She got amazing results at school, and she just wanted to celebrate by asking for a donut, and the mom said, I can't afford to give you a donut to celebrate. So anyway, I went to go and meet them, and I took the girl. I said, I want to, she's a good student. She's 12 years old. She's a good student. I want to inspire her, motivate her. So with Kachara Soup Kitchen, we went and I took her shopping, and basic things that they didn't have. I And that put me, I was like a bit shocked. I was a bit surprised, like, wow, okay. So it's really basic essentials that they didn't have. So I bought all the things. And I said, for her, I said to her, I just hope that you carry on studying and working hard. I said, I know your situation is not easy. I said, but, know that we care, that, Kachara has always been there to sort of help with the food aid. But I wanted to go one step beyond that. And, if you can just change one person's life, just a little thing. I'm not saying that, I've made a huge statement or whatever, just that I was able to give a little cheer, a little hope, a little motivation that someone else out there cares enough. I think that is what is so important. For empathy is just to be able to connect to that one person and be able to say, okay, you can do it with friends. We're all going through lockdown. It's really tough. Every day it's businesses are suffering, human health, medical frontliners. I mean, everything is like, quite bleak at the moment. Okay. Yeah. And so how do we reach out to one another? I mean, it's great that we're here on this Zoom, but reach out to a friend, try to motivate them. Even with me, it's hard to motivate myself, but if I can motivate someone else, maybe that will help motivate me at the same time. Because otherwise it's like, oh my gosh, it's like hamster on the wheel is going around. So it's about reaching out and connecting and just having a laugh with someone, or just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. Those little things make a huge difference. And to be able to reach out and just to say someone, hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? Thinking about you. And likewise, my friends do that to me. I got a little something. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. This just brightened up my day. And so I think that whole idea of empathy and compassion is because we feel. Yes. So the only way to be able to understand charity, social work, even environmental work is to be on the ground, to be at grassroots level, to really understand and put yourself in their shoe and then think, how can I help? Or how can I make just one thing better?
To volunteer and to overcome our terminal shyness. We always feel that we're not good enough. I'm so poor. What can I contribute? Time, energy, and shy. We're always so shy. I don't wanna. I'm so shy. I don't wanna. And
it's so true.
Just, overcome that.
A lot of my kids, my Make-A-Wish kids, a lot of my Make-A-Wish kids, they always start off really shy, because they know they're gonna meet the princess. And some of the wishes is about coming to the palace. So when I used to invite them to the palace, and
I see that wish. Quite a bit.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be the princess, right? So they come as the princess to the palace, and they will start off really shy. And it's about connection. You got to connect with the child and connect with the kid, and then make them feel at home. And eventually we crack jokes and we're doing games and things. And at the end of it, after 2 hours, they don't want to go home. They're sad to go home. Like, this is my palace, And I'm like, and they're like so sad to leave, but you can see the initial, like, because it's quite overwhelming, and then they just brighten up, and we start doing all these great games. I start playing, teaching them how to play pool, and we're doing like, feeding the fish, and they love it. And at the end, you just made their day, a couple of hours.
That's a question from Sophia, and she wants to know, how do you think we can get the underprivileged youth to be more involved in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Also, I'm sure you'll be happy to give a talk on the above to young people, to youth, all right? So we set that aside. And Sophia would also appreciate if you can share some advice on how. Oh, you two have the answer and give it out. Oh, okay, right. This is two separate questions.
Okay. We'll do the first one.
The first one. How do you get underprivileged youth to be more involved in achieving the UN SDGs?
Fantastic question. Thank you. And what I do is that I'm working with these voluntary tuition center at a PPR flats, and they have like lots of kids that sign up, and basically they don't sign up. They come to the tuition center. And I've been involved with them for a while now, several years. And that's where I do all my books donations. So I bought picture illustrated books, easy ones, for boys and girls.